So let's do this. And we do that because there's some significance with this singing bowl for us. One of our teachers that we've experienced together, Edwene Gaines. This came from Edwene's chapel on her retreat in Alabama. And do you remember something that happened for you that weekend that we were there when we brought that singing bowl home?
Oh, just a little thing that happened for me?
Anything that happened for you?
I walked on fire for the first time.
Walked on fire.
Walked on fire. Yeah.
So normally I would look back at you like you had 3 eyes, but I've walked on fire many times myself. So it's not that foreign of a concept for me. As a matter of fact, I know what it means to walk on fire, and I know what it means for me to know as I walk through life that I've walked on fire.
Yes.
What does it mean for you?
You know, that's such a great question because when you mentioned that, it really took me back to that whole experience.
Yep.
And you may recall that I didn't know there was a firewalk involved in the retreat experience when we planned to go.
Get you.
Yeah. And so when everybody was so excited about the firewalk, I really had to check in with my spirit because that's never been anything that I thought I would do. You know, totally could appreciate why other people would do it and got it conceptually, but just thought I really don't have any need or desire to do that. But how cool is that people can actually be in such a state of love and grace and knowingness that they can walk through fire and not get burned. So through the whole experience, I kept checking in, and a peace came over me as if you know the process well, others may not, but as you walk and honor the fire, and Edwene had been very, very clear to make sure that this was yours to do. And I felt that clarity. And so what it meant for me was I was really ready to say yes to my calling in every way. And for me, it was the freedom to know that nothing could stand in my way of realizing my potential and answering the call to do and be who I'm here to be.
Do you remember when you knew what your calling was? Do you remember when it came to you, or have you just always known?
I would say that to some extent I've always known. In my spirit, I've always known. I think I understood it intellectually probably not until my 40s did I really get that I was here to step through discomfort and into having a larger impact that I had no idea how that would unfold or what that looked like or anything.
So what's it looking like these days?
Wow. Well, it's looking like these days that I just have this incredible privilege of helping people discover what is oh so right with them. And helping the organizations where they're employed or the communities where they reside or the churches where they pray understand the unique and beautiful value that they bring to the equation so that they can support them in being all that they're here to be.
So how does it happen? How does it come to be, and how does it unfold, and how do you get to be the Lori Weir that you get to be most days these days?
So like a little history on that path, is
All
that
of
what
it.
you're asking me? Wow. So you know, I've had just this incredibly rich career, and most of it, the majority of it in IT. and which surprises people a lot as they get to know me, that I was in that industry for so many years, and spent well over 20 years serving in IT and in various capacities, and never quite feeling like I was supposed to be there. And you and I've talked before about imposter syndrome. I totally lived in imposter syndrome in my roles in the IT world.
What does that mean?
Well, I was really not at all sure how I had arrived in the roles that I had arrived, and was pretty confident that one day somebody was going to figure out that I was nowhere near as capable as they thought I was, or that they were compensating me for. At some point, somebody was going to figure out that I really was making it up as I went along. So very uncomfortable in my skin, not feeling safe in that environment for fear that somebody was going to figure it out. And just through a series of what I see as gifts now, very uncomfortable situations unfolding, I ultimately ended up leaving the technology field and going out and trying my wings as an entrepreneur. And this is where I really got clarity that I wanted to do something that brought love and light and lift into what I felt like is sometimes a very dark experience in corporate America. And first decided to do it through coffee with a little espresso stand. And our baristas were all very loving people, and set an intention for that coffee to serve that individual as they went into their day. And so I went through, candidly, just a series of transitions from entrepreneur into Chamber of Commerce work, and then realizing that I had something unique to offer, and established a business called Relationship Architects that was, at the time, really focused on supporting executives who didn't have the skills or the desire to build relationships. In doing that and representing their companies. I had a great time with that, and in 2013 I was affiliated with a leadership program that invited me to come in and participate on a task force to find a curriculum, and so I met a gentleman who'd written an incredible book, and got to know him and started introducing some of his concepts to my clients, and he encouraged me to take an assessment. And Vic, you've had a great career too, and you and I are pretty well assessed.
We love the test. Oh, please rate me.
That's right.
Score me. Tell me what makes me tick so that I can. I don't even. Why is it that we want to know so much? That's so interesting. It's like fascinating to. I think it's about wanting to know the most efficient ways of being in the world, the most efficient path to my joy and my bliss.
Yeah, totally.
Because God knows and is my witness, I want to feel that bliss.
Yeah.
I am a bliss chaser.
We are bliss-seeking missiles.
Yes. Seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, I just feel like, life really offers too many experiences to enjoy to not get them.
Yeah.
To not go for them.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
And I know for me, another component of it is that I am in a constant state of seeking further self-awareness.
Yeah.
I want to step into the highest version of myself. And to me, it's all data. It's information, you know. And
pause button on that, because that reminds me of a teaching. And Carolyn Mace has been such a powerful teacher in my life. And I remember one time I was at another workshop, at another weekend retreat, eating the, granola food and, but this was at a beautiful place called the Omega Institute. And she said, you're doing all this work because you say you want to become conscious. You want to become more self-aware. What are you going to do with it? What's it going to matter to you when you become this now more aware person? What is that? What's that going to change?
Did you readily have an answer for her for that question?
Thank God she didn't ask me. Especially at the time, you know. I had the gift of being able to watch this unfold, you know, in a room full of people, and she was asking someone who had the courage to ask her a question about something else, and, you know, she asked them, she's like, why do you even want to be self-aware? And really, one of the best answers that I've been able to summon over the years is, the more aware I am of what makes me tick, the more aware I can become of how I can contribute my tick,
Yes.
my bliss, my love, my joy,
Yes.
my learnings in the world, such that I'm privy to that experience of fullness that can reach me in no other way than just by doing what I'm here to do and being who I'm here to be in the most authentic way.
Absolutely.
And it can be bumpy, right?
Certainly.
And frumpy, but it's important. It really is, because what I realized through a lot of the work I've done with you is there is nobody alive on this planet that can sit in this chair and have this conversation and think these thoughts exactly the way that I can.
That's
There's
right.
plenty of people that can do it similarly, but there's nobody that can do it exactly.
That's exactly right.
And that's why I love your forum, because I know there's this assessment that's called the Clifton Strengths Finders method. You take the assessment, and then you have, with your business partners and on your own, have created curricula that help people navigate the results of this assessment. So they find out their top 5 talent themes, and sort of, which goes to show how they go about being in the world. Right?
Yeah, it's their unique approach and what they do most instinctively.
Yeah.
So the assessment is comprised of actually 34 themes of behaviors, if you will, that are called talent themes, or also called strengths. And the assessment reveals, out of those 34, the 5 that are so instinctive to each of us that we may not even be conscious that it's how we approach everything. It's like our prism through which we do life.
What are yours?
Mine are connectedness and maximizer, strategic, futuristic, and belief are my top 5.
And mine are connectedness. We share the same number 1, which is, it's just interesting. Strategic, maximizer, developer, and communication.
Yes.
Or is it communicator or communication?
Communication.
Communication,
Yes.
right.
So
and
we
God
share.
knows I've been talking since I was 8 months old. So I love some conversation. I love some talk. I love some words. But let's talk about connectedness, because we both share that one. We share 3 of the same top 5, but the connectedness one,
Yes.
what does that mean?
People who have the theme of connectedness within their top 5 have typically a belief that there are no coincidences, that we are all connected, and that everything that I experience is connected to what you experience, and that truly we are one. For me, it's just being mesmerized by the continuum of all that is.
Yeah.
I love this. Within this body of work, there are 4 time-sensitive talent themes. So there's context, and those are folks who look to the past to inform the present or the future. There's futuristic, which is about being drawn into the future and having clarity, being able to see what's possible and be drawn to that. And then there is adaptability, which is being in the present moment, just very much in the present moment. And then there's connectedness. And so it's described as all of time. So when I think about the visual that I get around connectedness is that if we were to throw a pebble in a pond, then the ripples from that pebble that's kind of how our consciousness works. Is that we see the impact, the immediate impact, but then we see what that affects and who that affects and how that affects. And so we see connections between things that other people just would not see. You know, have you ever had that feeling, Vic? You meet somebody and you immediately go, you know, I've got to connect you with so and so.
You've got to know them.
You've got to know them, and you really don't even have couldn't articulate it if you were asked what was behind that, what was the impetus for that, you know, recommending that connection. But you know that there's some reason that these people or that these businesses or whatever the connection is needs to happen.
So basically, you're going along in your career. You've had all these different experiences. You find this assessment, this Clifton Strengths Finders assessment. You do the assessment. It basically changes your life to have this knowledge.
Yes.
You go forward, create curricula that you now facilitate in corporate America,
right,
and in communities and churches and all kinds of different worlds, right? What are you seeing happen for people when they discover their top 5 as the result of taking the same assessment and then going through your, you know, unique curricula that helps them digest what the top 5 means?
That's a great question. Thank you for asking that. Because this is what absolutely just fuels my soul.
And you get to do this almost every day.
I do.
Right.
I do. It's incredible. So what I see in people is, you know, we live in a deficit-based world. We're so quick to point out what's wrong with this or with that or with our government. It just goes on and on and on. But we are most adept at making ourselves wrong for being who we are. So what happens for people is suddenly they're introduced to a language that really captures how they approach life. And there's so much science behind it that, you know, often people will question it on the front end of, you know, how can this be? But statistically, there's 60 years of research behind the tool. So people get their results and they begin to realize this really captures me. And sometimes they question
because it's real, it resonates. It came from them.
Yes.
It came from their answers to questions in an assessment.
Yes.
And just like, you know, sometimes we're captivated by other assessments that we take or how true to form it is. It's like the assessment is telling them who they are, and they're saying, how in the world how do it know?
How did it know this?
Yeah.
That's the biggest question. How did this happen?
Yeah.
How, you know, I feel like I've been codified. How did this, you know, how did this happen? And what happens through the experience that we create, there's a beauty in me discovering what is right with me and discovering that language and beginning to integrate how that shows up in my life and how that shows up in my role at work and how that shows up as a parent and on and on and on. And simultaneously, for me to have the gift of witnessing you experiencing that same self-discovery. We call it the formula for grace, because often we work with teams where there may be some dysfunction or some discord or some misunderstandings or there are various dynamics. And as people begin to have an introduction to their prism, and then also to be able to understand what's behind the questions that someone asked before they can buy into your idea, you know, or how the communication is not meeting sometimes because your approach is so very, very different. So I think what people come out of the initial one with is one, a difference in body language. That's one of the most fascinating
Which
things.
indicates a difference in feeling.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
They feel differently. They feel power
They do.
and affirmation.
Yes.
Okay.
And they've kind of tapped into their emotional intelligence. They've more than tapped into it because the foundation of that is self-awareness. But then another aspect of it is social awareness. So they've had this experience of excavating within themselves, but also realizing that we're all as unusual and unique and valuable as our fingerprint.
So when you see individuals have this experience, then what effect do you see it create on the teams of people when they come together as a workforce?
Well, they have that recognition that really nobody, you said it early on, nobody. I mean, and this is, for anybody who's watching this would be the one thing that I would ask. If you hit stop right now, just hold on a second, because you need to hear this. You need to hear this. Statistically, the odds of anybody in the whole world having the same results as you from this assessment is 1 in 278,000.
Okay.
Impressive.
Meaning the same top 5.
Meaning the same top 5 results.
Okay.
Yes. The odds of anyone having them in the same order is 1 in 33.5 million. And so I always ask people, who grew up in your household with your mom and dad on your street, in your community, with your educational background?
Even if you do find the other 1 in 33 million,
right,
they don't have the same experiences as you.
No.
So you're still unique.
That's exactly
you're still not
right.
them. Yeah.
And the bottom line to that is that there is nobody in this world that brings to love and life and family and business and everything else what you do in the way you do it.
Perfect. Okay, so now how do you define corporate toxicity?
Corporate toxicity, oh boy, based on my observation, well, we can even look at a little bit of the stats behind it. Mm-hmm. In the United States, there are only 30% of the workforce that show up and are plugged in, committed to the mission.
30%.
30% committed to the mission, bringing their A game, willing to give you discretionary effort. Mm-hmm. Half of the workforce is showing up and doing what they have to do to get a paycheck, mm-hmm, but are really not excited about being there, giving it their A game, don't offer discretionary, mm-hmm, support, mm-hmm, of initiatives, etc. Mm-hmm. And then there's about 20% that are actively disengaged and unhappy, just unhappy. And so what we see immediately is that just by virtue of taking the assessment and having some education around it, people's individual engagement will elevate up to I think it's 7.8% to mm-hmm, be exact. Mm-hmm. So one of the things we see is increased engagement. Mm-hmm. We also see people stand more confidently because they understand the value that they bring. Mm. And we also see less friction. I've noticed this a lot, and you can tell me if this has been your experience, but in the workplace and in life, we tend to want to compare ourselves to other people. Mm. We want to be more like them, or we should be more like them, or if they would do it my way, etc.
The greatest act of self-betrayal, comparison.
Truth.
The greatest act of self-betrayal.
I love that. Where'd that come from?
Jan Van Sant, of course.
Oh, but of course.
I've had that experience in several of your workshops as far as what I've learned about me. One of the things that I'll never forget is when you introduced the concept to our group one day that you may appear to be their facilitator, but really your goal is to usher in world peace.
Yes. Yeah.
And everybody laughed. Mm-hmm. I thought to myself, that's so interesting that the concept of world peace comes up and everybody laughs. Mm-hmm. And I thought to myself, that's exactly why we don't have world peace. That's right. Is because it's a joke to people. Instead of an objective that comes with action items, that comes with strategy, that comes with accomplishment. You so adeptly went on to say, and I don't want to misquote, so I want to actually look here. When I'm at peace, the world is at peace. Mm-hmm. And therefore, my being at peace is a path to world peace.
Yes.
Say more about that.
Well, first, let me give credit where credit's due. The first part of that came from a World Prayer Day that I participated in several years ago, before I ever started doing this work. Mm. And it so resonated with me. Mm. And I recall that very moment when the laughter was when that came up and people were laughing, and I believe it was you, if memory serves me right, that said, what is funny about that? Why are we laughing at that? We do have a path to world peace, and it's one person, and one community at a time.
Yeah.
But the biggest argument that we have with ourselves is around our value and our worthiness.
Our worthiness of having what we want.
Yes.
And if we are willing to allow ourselves to have what we want, if we're willing to love ourselves enough to allow our dreams, then where is there really room for fighting and discord? And if we're experiencing joy, why would we be willing to give up that experience of joy in order to fight? If we're walking around with joy,
Yes.
we offer joy.
That's right.
If we're walking around with pain, we offer something that feels painful to people.
Exactly.
Right? And that's something that I try to remember on the daily, is that when I encounter that person that lays on my everlast nerve and button, if they had joy, that's what you would be getting. So the fact that they don't have joy, the fact that you're getting something that's really hard for you to palate, means that's what they've got. That's what they're experiencing. So they're hurting before you're hurting.
Absolutely.
And they're bringing that into the room, and they may or may not know how to navigate away from that. True. But it does help me get to a place of compassion for annoying people. And let me say, I am an annoying person sometimes. So hopefully people extend me the same grace, because I'm not always in joy. I work at it. I love joy and I value it, but I'm not always in joy. I'm a human being.
You are a source of joy for many. For many, many. Myself, I'm at the top of the list. I get to enjoy your joy, and and it is truth that when we show up and we're in pain or we're uncomfortable with who we are and we haven't discovered a way or a language that will help us accept ourselves, and not just accept ourselves, but celebrate ourselves. It poses a challenge for all of us, and we're all there at different times. I don't know if you remember this conversation that we've had before about the thought bubble. That people who frustrate us typically are just have a different approach than we do. They're wired differently than we do.
Or they're too similar.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And we get frustrated sometimes. I know in meetings, I get frustrated occasionally, or used to get frustrated a lot until I better understood this. People weren't seeing what I was seeing. It was like, why is this so difficult? This is common sense. And what I know now.
Why do we have to have meetings about meetings
Exactly.
to get to the meeting?
Yes.
Yeah.
Why? What? Again and again.
Why do you need so many words to... Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And understanding that our differences are our advantages.
Yeah.
And if I'm thinking, if I'm wired so uniquely, and I am, that nobody's seeing what I see in the way that I see it, if I'm living in that thought bubble of this is common sense, why aren't y'all getting on the bus here? Then I'm selling out on the group.
Yeah.
Because I'm the one that has a potential solution. Yeah.
And even though that tendency might be driving me nuts right now, that's the exact tendency that will show up when our boat is sinking and save the ship.
Exactly.
Save the ship, yeah. Because that's the way things work, right? We're not gifted in all areas, but we're gifted where we're gifted.
That's right. And we need each other.
Yeah, we need each other.
We need each other.
9-year-old Lori Weir, one word. What was she like?
9. Woo!
Third grade?
Is that third grade?
Ish.
I would say full of life. One word? That's tough. I would say vibrant. Yeah, she was vibrant. Fearless.
So you're a vibrant, fearless kid. You seem very vibrant and fearless to me now. That's very interesting. What happens in between to enable you to get to be in a place in the world where it means everything to you to facilitate other people realizing what's also right about them?
Whew. Well, I heard a conversation just recently about your calling and how we run away from our calling for a variety of reasons. And I would offer that when you have that knowing,
you know that you know that you know.
You know that you know that you know. Your decisions are based on moving that knowing forward in service to the world. It has not been a straight trajectory from 9-year-old to this almost 57-year-old chick that is living her bliss. It's actually been a really bumpy ride. You know, some of the decisions that I've made to follow my bliss and to follow my calling have been very uncomfortable in many, many ways. And they have led me to here today with you in this incredible conversation about love and what love does in us and through us, and the possibility of, not the possibility, but the capacity of love to bring us to world peace.
Yeah.
So I would say it's a journey of resilience. It's a journey of faith, a journey of expectation, and knowing.
What I'm hearing you say is world peace depends on knowing the best of yourself, being willing to offer the best of yourself,
Yes.
and being willing to see the best of others.
Can we sound bite that? Because that's how it happens.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the journey.
Well, you figure that if you have that dynamic in your house is probably pretty peaceful. And if you have that dynamic in your workplace is probably pretty peaceful. And if you have that dynamic in your city government, perhaps your city is more peaceful. And that, my friend, is that ripple effect that we have talked about, because we are connectedness freaks. I don't even know how to say it. We love the ripple.
We love the ripple.
We love the
the
ripple.
mysteries of life.
Yeah.
We love seeing how the underpinnings of all that is.
Yeah.
I tell you, my belief too is, as we work more with geographies, it's been really interesting and inspiring, candidly, to watch groups of elected officials begin to appreciate what each of them brings to the dance, if you will.
Yeah.
And seeing communities grow in this shared language of what is right with people, they're beginning to shift into what is right with our city or our county or our education system. And just shifting, Vic, that conversation from what is wrong with, and pointing fingers, to what are we doing well and what are our natural assets. And so it's taking the language, not just the individual and collective for the people, but for the area. And we just fully anticipate that these areas that are focused on this love language of what is right with them and their community are going to become a magnet for people who want to be in areas that value them for who they are.
And isn't it true, and in alignment with the laws of physics, that if we enhance what we're already good at, and we allow ourselves to become more in that area, then we're stronger in the long run than if we try to fix our weaknesses.
Oh, Vic, it's so true. And that's at the core of this whole body of research. That's what Dr. Donald Clifton, who is the father of strength psychology, said initially was, we've done a fabulous job of naming everything possible that could be wrong with people. What would be possible if we began to focus on what is right with people? And so the research tells us that if we focus on what we do well, we exponentially amplify our opportunity for success. When we try to fix our weaknesses, and understanding that we're not saying we don't have weaknesses, and that we do have to manage those, but when we focus on trying to perfect our weaknesses, at best, we can achieve mediocrity.
When we focus on fixing our weaknesses, at best, we can achieve mediocrity.
Yeah.
At best.
At best. So, not on my bucket list, and I know it's not on your bucket list, but quite powerful.
Yep.
Quite powerful.
Yep.
I know I spent a lot of years trying to fix what I thought was wrong with me, or what a manager or supervisor thought I needed to improve upon.
Well, and something I just realized is what we think is wrong with us is always as the result of comparing ourselves to someone else.
Exactly.
And what is right about us is more authentic. It's more pure because it's us, right? I mean, it's what is there, and it is what is strong, and it is what is apparent, right?
Yeah.
And we only think that certain things are wrong with us because we compare ourselves to others. It's the most intelligent bird in the world would feel like a complete failure if it were taught it had to fly in water. We're here to do what we're here to do. Mm-hmm. And a bird is meant to fly in the air. And when a bird is allowed to be in the air, then it does what it's naturally inclined to do, and it soars, right?
Absolutely. Beautifully stated.
I mean, it's not mine, right? I mean, we read this stuff on the internet every day,
Yeah.
but it's so true. When we expect ourselves to be something in order to achieve a paycheck that is not who we authentically are, we are literally contributing to our demise every day.
Absolutely. When the truth is
Yeah.
that when we understand the unique value proposition that we bring,
Yeah.
all we have to do is show up and be ourselves. And that is the most liberating thing in the world.
And may I say, the way that you show up has shifted so many rooms that I've been in with you. And the way that you show up is a gift to so many people. That's why I asked the question, what happens in someone's life that helping other people discover what's also right about them means everything to you? That's beautiful, my friend. And you are too. And thank you for doing this. And thank you for being here.
Thank
To
you.
be continued.
Yes.
To
In our
be
PJs.
continued. We'll keep them posted.
Oh, I love you.
I love you too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just let it ride.